In this next session, we're going to pivot slightly to what that rich content delivery looks like when you're serving multiple brands in multiple locales. Landmark Group is one of the largest omnichannel retailers in the Middle East, with 25 homegrown brands across 17 countries. That's a lot of content. So you're going to hear firsthand the strategies that they use to deliver that content to global audiences and how they tackle the nuances between each of those to make sure that the content resonates in every single market that they target. So please welcome to the stage, Brian McMahon, Key Account Director at Ampliance.
Thank you, Beth. And I'd like to welcome Ashima Agrawal to the stage from Landmark. I wanted to start off, there's been quite a few thank yous today, but I wanted to start off with another one. I know how busy all of you are, especially when I'm trying to organize QBRs with you and trying to find slots in your diary. It's impossible. So it's great that you've all taken the time out to be here with us today. And especially you, Ashima, coming all the way from Dubai to visit us. It's an honor to have you on the stage. I'm delighted that you're here to tell us a little bit about Landmark. And for the audience that's here, they may not know Landmark as well as I do. We've worked together for a while. Can you give a little bit of detail about Landmark and your business?
Sure. I'm glad to be a part of this event. Hi, everyone. My name is Ashima. I'm Head of Content at Landmark Group. For those of you who are not aware, Landmark Group is one of the largest omni-channel retailers in the Middle East. As Beth was saying, Landmark has about 25 homegrown brands, and it's available. It has physical presence in over 17 countries. And obviously, the span of brands range around fashion, electronics, home, shoes, baby. So obviously, as you can imagine, obviously the group itself is really big, and obviously, that's what Landmark does.
And with all of those brands, we talked a little bit about your SKU count earlier. How do you go about managing the content and the experience for all those brands? I know there's quite a bit of difference between each of the brands and a huge difference in the SKUs as well.
Yeah. So, that's a great question. As I was talking about, that Landmark has multiple brands, right? And, one of the key complexities that we have is content overload, right? In any given year, the number of assets that we produce is over 1 million, which is spread across, the product content, all the products that we shoot and push live across these home, baby, and fashion brands, and also managing the storefront over different territories and different locales. Out of these 25 brands that we have, a physical presence for, there are 6 brands that we have online on e-commerce. And, these brands have got their app, their web, and these brands obviously are available in 2 different languages, Arabic being the primary one. And obviously, there is app, there is responsive, so you can understand the complexities and the nuances of managing these many number of assets is really challenging, especially during peaks, because, within fashion itself, we've got 3 brands, and, unlike, Europe or Western countries where generally there is about single peak, we've got 3 key events, one being Black Friday, which I'm sure is there for all of you. The second key event for us is Ramadan. And the third big one is back to school, right? Because we've got kids brand as well. So when I talked about this 1 million assets, it's not like we've got flat, over 12 months. Obviously, we follow these peaks and troughs, which makes things extremely challenging for us to manage. The second important point that the teams have to keep in mind is the regulatory compliance and the cultural sensitivities, because Middle East, being a region, we need to be extremely careful about, how people are accepting content. Are they okay to look at things? And of course, then there are government laws and regulations that we really need to follow. Otherwise, obviously, the, Landmark can obviously, get fined, right? So the teams have to be extremely careful about that, and, managing the volumes along with, making sure that regulatory compliance is there, and keeping in mind that we need to make sure that the brand experience and the customer experience is not compromised becomes, obviously extremely challenging. So the most important thing is, of course, the teams have to be really agile. We need to work really fast when we're getting feedback, from the customers or the brands, and make sure that, the delivery happens on time.
And you've been developing your technology stack for a while to try and meet these challenges, which I know you've done quite a huge amount of work there.
Yes.
But you had quite a lot of challenges before that as well that kind of led you down the road of the technology stack change.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about those challenges and kind of what working with Amplience and the other technologies you work with has helped to meet some of those challenges?
Sure. So put things in perspective, Landmark has just completed its 50th anniversary. So it's a pretty old group, and the group entered into this digital space back in 2012. And as surprising as it may sound, we did not have a CMS before we onboarded Amplience. So all of you can understand that it was a bit of a rocky ride for the teams, because obviously we were expanding into territories, we were onboarding more and more brands onto the digital platform, and the teams had a lot of manual processes, and as we heard in one of the sessions earlier, that when you don't have tools and technologies to help the teams end up doing things manually. Accuracy, turnaround time, and quality are of course one of the 3 top KPIs of content teams, right? And when we were doing all these things manually, the teams ended up making a lot of mistakes. We used to take a huge amount of time to set up, content live. We didn't even have ability to preview the content. So the teams were almost, making changes on the live platform. And especially during, key events like Black Friday, where, we had to switch all the brands in one night. We actually used to spend almost like 48 hours, spending and figuring out what to do. So it was almost like a nightmare. And, once we onboarded Amplience, we started looking at things differently. So say, for instance, ability to preview content, and now the team members can plan things and, set up things to proper QC and make sure that customer experience is not compromised, and, and we are able to deliver, right to the brands, internal brands, and, also to the customers, right? The other point that I want to touch upon is, the content experiences that we are able to deliver. I mean, as we heard in the previous session, that earlier when it came to say, can you create a customized landing page? We also, used to look up to the developers, can you please hard code this for us, in HTML? And it used to take us ages, but now we've got flexibility to create, these custom built landing pages and create personalized experiences, to our customers. And that has something which has really helped us. Of course, there are, we've actually experienced, we are into A/B testing, and we have leveraged some of the key features, which has not only reduced the turnaround time by about 60%, but also helped us improve CTR in the range of 2 to 4%, which is a huge one for the Landmark Group.
And you spoke about the amount of brands, the multiple languages, all of the different regions with their own nuances.
Yeah.
How do you manage all of that content localization?
Yeah.
How do you efficiently manage it? Because I know it's a huge amount of workflow for your team.
Yes, yeah. I mean, look, any localization piece requires, a proper strategy which is built around how would you create the content and, how would you scale for it, right? So, but the first step is to understand, what does customer really want? Like for us, Saudi works very different as compared to Dubai. So even though the offers could be very similar, the way you would present would be very different, right? So the 2 key things that we focused on was, number 1 is creation of guideline, whether it comes to the visual part of it or the textual part of it, right? How you are, what sort of colors you're going to use, what sort of graphics are going to be used, of course, keeping in mind the regulatory compliances, right? We need to keep that in mind. But, also not just the visual aspect, but the textual aspect as well, right? Like, say, for instance, each territory has a different currency, right? So we need to make sure that we are, keeping that in mind, and having the living document and, and the guideline document really helps the team. Obviously, the second part is having watertight processes, which I believe in any operation which is as large as Landmark's, it is incredibly important. So we've got very clear roles and responsibilities defined, where, every person is clearly aware of, what is required to be done and in what time frame, because time to site, again, is a very important, KPI for the team. So having strict guidelines and, defining clear processes, along with, we of course embrace some of the tools and technologies. Yes, we've spoken about generative AI a lot, and we know that AI, has been, existing for a long time. So we've invested in some tools and technologies that also helps team to, cope up with the scale. So, yeah.
And you also use different channels, right? Which is quite different to some of what the other retailers that I work with. I know push notifications is a big thing for you, and it's a daily task in multiple languages for all the different brands going out. That's a huge amount of effort.
Yeah, absolutely, of course. So I mean, like most of the retailers, obviously we've got a storefront, web app. We've got push notifications. We've got email notifications. Of course, pushes work better than email. That's a separate thing. But we do generate content for all these channels. We also create content for specifically for social media platforms. So the need of content is obviously continuously increasing. And if I have to talk about push notifications, there could be same message which needs to be communicated in different territories, right? And of course then the way, whether you need to make some decisions sometimes, whether you are creating content and you're really translating content, right? So based on the guideline, the team members act on it. Of course, sometimes, deviating, keeping in mind, customers' expectation and need of the event, whatever that may be. But, the complexity of, content around these brands, and different locale obviously keeps increasing.
Yeah, and you found good success with the push notifications in terms of the commerce revenue that's coming back from it, and getting to a more personalized version of that, and automating some of it is, can see a good drive as well.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, for us, like peaks like White Wednesday or Ramadan or back to school, our requirement of any type of content, whether it's push notification or storefront assets during those months goes up to 4x. So, so it's a huge amount of content. But of course, specifically for push notification, we've seen a huge success, and that's what we are focusing on for better engagement of the customer.
Can you talk a little bit about the technology decisions, functionality that you've implemented? What the kind of key technology stack is that you're using?
Yeah, so like I said, when the volumes are high, you need to take support of technology, right? And and at Landmark, we're using a combination of different functionalities and technologies. So there are many, but I'm going to talk about 3 key ones. The first one is Content Central, which is our homegrown content management system, which is primarily used for managing the studio workflow. And, it takes care of, the studio warehouse management system and, photography, retouch, copywriting, and Arabic copy, English copy, and final go live. So that's the studio part of it. Of course, we're using Ampliance for managing the storefront on providing experiences on the web and app platforms, which includes, all the home pages, category pages, and even the, customized landing pages. We are also leveraging, Ampliance for, say, further customizing flash deals, the banners on category listing pages, etc. We are also using Monitate, for doing A/B tests, which is, to understand how the customers are, reacting to different type of content experiences that we are creating, and a couple of other things like strips and creating urgency, for the customer. So, from content perspective, these 3 are the large ones which the teams are using day in, day out. But of course, besides that, there are a couple of other ones as well.
You are always, though, looking to evolve the stack, right? And there's quite a lot of experimentation goes on at Landmark. I know you've been looking at lots of different technologies, including some of our own. Do you want to talk to some of the experimentation and the work that you've been doing?
Yeah, so, very recently we've been in touch with Ampliance team, and, we're looking at, experimenting the AI piece of it for generating product descriptions. Of course, we've got a long list of use cases, for which AI can help. But, particularly, in the recent future, we are going to be experimenting on generating titles and descriptions for English and Arabic. Of course, Arabic is a highly complex language, and it requires a lot of customizations. And we're really excited to collaborate with Ampliance team to see how it evolves and how we can shape that up. Because with the volume of content that we are creating, I'm sure this is going to be really helpful.
Yeah, I think we've heard a lot about AI from John's talk, and what I've heard a few people say is, there's no C-level executive that's saying, I need to buy AI today. They're trying to solve problems, trying to figure out use cases, look at productivity gains they can make by using AI as a tool. So I think being able to put that in the hands of our content teams is going to be a game changer.
Yeah, absolutely. And, of course, we've, earmarked dedicated bandwidths of team members, even though we are entering into peak period. But, this whole AI piece is incredibly important. And as a group, we are focusing and we are planning to obviously go really big in terms of investing time and energy to understand how it's going to pan out for us.
And looking forward then, kind of strategy for Landmark, what are things that you're looking at in terms of strategy? Your consumer demand is changing constantly in your region, especially lots of different change coming. What are kind of the strategies that you're incorporating?
Yeah, so as you rightly said, this digital landscape is changing really fast. And, if I speak about Middle East, particularly, we've got cross-border competition entering from Europe, and Asia. I don't know, if some of you are aware, of course, Shein is already there. We've got Temu, from China that's entering the market. We've got Primark, entering in the UAE, which obviously means more competition, which means customers are going to look out for more options and, they're going to be more aware about what's happening in the market. And we will need to evolve and adapt and deliver to what customers are needing, right? So we are, of course, planning to figure out this whole personalization piece, even though we are doing it in bits and pieces right now, but we are planning to go really big, on personalization and to provide, relevant customer experiences, right? And what this would mean is the demand of content would really increase. And, and to cope up with that, we are looking at AI and, to see that how we can cope up with this demand and use AI as more of an augmentation tool, to be able to deliver content to the customers.
Yeah, the use cases that you have around translation, around, product description, push notification, automation, it's a perfect fit. So it's been I know we're still continuing those conversations and getting those things going, but it's been a great journey so far in the work that we've done together. Just want to finish with just thanking you again for coming all the way from Dubai to talk on the stage here with us today. And I know you're interested in talking to some of our other customers as well to see how they use the platform, having a chat in the breakout sessions as well. So
thank you so much for having me.